Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform webinar on cross-sectoral intercluster cooperation. My name is Elena Ferrario. I am the thematic manager of the Policy Learning Platform, and together with my colleagues today, we invite you to discover practices and good experiences on the way clusters work together. There are more than 110 registered people today at this webinar, coming from 21 different EU countries and representing different types of organizations, well, cities, regional governments, but also clusters, of course, development agencies, the academia world, and EU networks and institutions, the OECD and the European Commission. So welcome everybody. We are very happy to see how interesting this topic has been for the members of our community. And of course, we look forward to interesting exchanges today. Now, while waiting for all the participants to join in, a few housekeeping rules as usual. So this webinar is recorded. You will be able to access the recordings already from tomorrow on our website, together with all the PowerPoint presentations and further reading material. You can, and you are warmly welcome to do so, to ask your questions and insert your comments and remarks using the chat function that you see on the top right hand of your screen right now. And if you face any difficulties in hearing us or seeing us, you can always reach out to our colleague Lotte. Lotte is there to help us with all the technical aspects of this webinar. Now, before going into the real subject of this event, let me dedicate just a few seconds to the Policy Learning Platform. For those of you who do not know it, the Policy Learning Platform is one of the pillars of Interreg Europe, and it is something that we call a continuous space for learning. So it is a place where our 18,000 members get together, participate in different activities, have access to different types of reading materials, and they do that because they exchange on regional development policies and they learn from one another on the way to better design and better implement these policies. So at the end of the day, this serves the scope of improving your daily work and improving, at the end of the day, the way the public policies are implemented. Now, without further delay, I would like to give the floor to my colleagues, Rene Tõnnisson. Rene is one of our thematic experts for SME competitiveness, and together with Marek Przeor, who will voice your questions and remarks from the chat today, they will guide you through the webinar. Rene, over to you.
Thank you, Elena. Thank you so much for introduction. And hello to everybody, and welcome from my side as well. I'm Rene Tõnnisson, one of the thematic experts of PLP, and I will make a short introduction to the topic today we are going to discuss before inviting our first speakers to the screen. But let me first share my screen so you can also see it. I put it in a full screen mode. Lotte, can you confirm, is it all good, or you can see this one perhaps?
You will just need to go to the display settings on top again.
They have changed again. Okay, so is it better now?
Yeah. There we go. Go ahead.
Yep. So let me just shortly introduce myself. As I mentioned already, I'm working as a thematic expert on SME competitiveness for Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform, but this assignment has been only recent one in my life for the last 2.5 years. I have been actually working much longer with clusters. I'm almost 10 years involved in cluster management. I'm a member of management board of Estonian Smart City Cluster, which is a small cluster focusing on smart city solutions and developments. I have also been working actively in different European cooperation projects from clusters, including Interreg Europe, but also Horizon 2020 and previous framework programs. About 10 years ago, I was also advising European Commission on cluster policy as member of high-level expert group. I'm based in Tartu, Estonia, and you see the photo taken from City Hall, where we have created an ice skating ring in those difficult Corona times. At least with a nice Estonian winter, you have some activities which are still possible and allowed, apart from, of course, joining those webinars and discussing ideas like cluster cooperation. And why we decided to organize this webinar, there are a number of different reasons. If you look from a theoretical perspective, we all know, of course, that clusters play an increasingly important role in innovation, economic development, and competitiveness of both regions and countries. And the topic has been hot for many years already. However, what is increasingly more vital is how to actually get those spillover effects from cluster development to other sectors, to other clusters, and to other regions. And we know that innovation is not normally innovation is not happening in isolation, but it needs interaction between companies, people, regions, clusters, sectors, etc. So that's exactly the focus point of today's seminar, to look how those interactions can be facilitated and how those interactions between different clusters and different sectors can benefit the broader economic development of regions and companies and clusters. And we share the belief that if there is a strong cluster in a particular region, it doesn't exist in its own universe, but it has very positive potential effects to other clusters and to other sectors as well, which means that if this process is properly facilitated and this cooperation stimulated, it can benefit a much broader number of companies and sectors than the one cluster which is with what it's concerned with. At the same time, of course, if you look at today's topic from the perspective of Interreg Europe program, then we see as an evidence that there are a big number of Interreg Europe projects which are focusing on cluster development and related topics. We have more than 20 projects which are directly dealing with clusters. And the idea of the webinar is, of course, also to bring those different projects together and to share with each other the good practices, but also to provide the learning points and possibilities for a broader experience outside of Interreg Europe community. And we also know that the European Union is launching a number of new programs, such as, for instance, Horizon Europe in this year and in coming months, and the clusters will have a significant role to play also in those programs. So we will take a short look also at the future in terms of cluster landscape. And let me also introduce you our agenda. We have altogether planned today to have 90 minutes for this webinar, 1.5 hours. So we start with a presentation from Pays de Loire in France about intercluster cooperation between 6 regional clusters. And this presentation will be given by Ms. Agathe Fournier, who is the lead partner of Interreg Europe Clipper project. And I'm just trying to introduce Agathe. If you can switch on your camera for a second so people would see you and wave them and say hello, so we can.
Yes, Rene, we can see Agathe.
Ah, you can. Okay, great. Because I cannot for some reason. Anyway, so it's a shortcoming of the presenter's view. Then the next presentation will focus on how digital innovation hubs can promote the cross-sectoral cooperation. And we are looking at the experiences gained from Latvia, and more particularly Ms. Aiga Irmeja, who is the manager of Latvian IT Cluster, will be presenting that. And then Aiga, if you can wave to the participants. As I cannot see it, I hope this was successful. And then I would introduce our third speaker, who is speaking about European Commission role supporting the intercluster cooperation. And Mr. Marek Przeor from European Commission DG Grow will have the presentation. And Marek, if you can just wave to the participants so they would know your face. And once we have had all those 3 presentations, which will have 15 minutes each, 10 minutes for presentation and 5 minutes for questions, then we will engage into panel discussion with 3 participants from as the presenters, previous presenters, and then additional participant, my colleague Mark Pattinson, will join from Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform. So Mark, perhaps if you can also wave. And if all that goes well, then we have 5 minutes for some wrap up and concluding remarks, which we will share then together with Elena. I hope our plans are clear enough, so let's hope that we will also be able to keep the time and fit within 90 minutes. And with that, I would like now to invite our first speaker, Ms. Agathe Fournier from Pays de Loire, a project coordinator for Clipper project. So Agathe, the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Yes. 2 seconds. I'm here. Good.
Yeah, we can see you well. So go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. So I'm here to present to you from the Clipper project, which Pays de Loire region is the coordinator of our good practice on cross-sectoral inter-cluster cooperation, named NEOPALIA. So without further ado, I will just yes. So just quickly to introduce you the Clipper project. So Clipper is an innovative interregional cooperation project that brings together 7 proactive regions to address the negative impact of the global economy recession has on European maritime sector, and also keeping in mind that this sector is suffering from growing competition from emerging countries, and that is even more true in the COVID crisis that we face now. We have so 8 partners in this project, us as lead partners, Pays de Loire region, and also 5 council from Scotland, the University of Kiel in Schleswig-Holstein, Germany, Turku Science University from Southwest Finland, Aurora Development Agency from Split Dalmatia in Croatia, the Maritime Cluster of the Liguran region in Italy, the Asturian Foundation for Energy in Spain, and finally, as the communication manager, we have the Conference of Peripheral and Maritime Regions. So you can see all the information on the project here. The overall aim of the project is to develop better policies to support the competitiveness of SMEs working in maritime industries in Europe. And to do so, the project focuses on 4 levels of competitiveness. The first is industrial performance, the second collective performance, 3 internationalization, and 4 risk sharing, both financial and legal. Sorry. Today we'll most focus on the collective performance level for competitiveness. And before going into details on this cluster cooperation, just a few project results. So we launched Clipper in January 2017. We are now in the last semester of the project, and we produced various deliverables that are all available on our website. So you can ask if you have questions, don't hesitate, and also you can see all that we produced on this. So we produced a benchmark listing more than 80 tools. This benchmark was coming from the 7 territorial diagnosis. We participated to various European events and contributed to the Blue Invest platform of the DJ Mare, as for example. The Clipper project aims at the collaboration between various regions, and one of our collaborative actions that is now ongoing is a resolution call for projects on marine renewable energies. That is a bi-regional call that we launched in last October, and that is now going quite well. Also, if you have questions on this, I will be glad to develop. And as for the cross-sectoral intercooperation example, I can develop more on NEOPALIA right now. So, NEOPALIA. NEOPALIA is an association created and run by Pays de Loire entrepreneurs in order to strengthen local companies' diversification and competitiveness. It accompanies principles in their progress dynamics and acts alongside with regional institutions to enable a stable industrial development of the region. So NEOPALIA is a network that gathers nearly 245 industrial companies, mainly based in Pays de Loire region, who represent more than 30,000 jobs in 130 professions, and that covers more than 45 markets and 300 remarkable skills. The network gathers 5 clusters, each specific on specific market that we will develop further on, which are our aerospace, marine renewable energies, marine technology, energy, and mobility. And the objective of those business clusters is to generate additional turnover for its member by working collaboratively, on specific tenders. So the collaborative turnover of NEOPALIA is of more than 45 million in the past 5 years. NEOPALIA is, as you can see here, composed mainly of SMEs at 52%, but it also have a medium-sized enterprise, very small enterprises, and big companies. Doesn't seem to, yes. So what are the objectives of NEOPALIA? NEOPALIA has three main objectives. It aims at commercialize collaborative global industrial offers, build a business network and strengthen the links with great market player, and support structuring industrial project development. Mainly, NEOPALIA aims to federate and allow companies to work together on business issue in order to develop the 5 industrial sectors that I just mentioned. And those 5 business clusters are the concrete expression of NEOPALIA market-oriented approaches. It translates the regional companies' will to federate themselves around a shared strategy and a common industrial offer in order to conquest market both in France and abroad. How does it work and who is in it? How to join? So NEOPALIA accompanies principal in their progress dynamics and act alongside with the regional institution to enable stable industrial development, as I said. But its approach is a business provider approach, and it operates as indicated on the scheme at the bottom of the slide. And this approach seems to answer the big player expectation, which means that it initiates and builds partnership with key players in its target markets. It promotes NEOPALIA promotes corporate alliances in different forms like consortium agreement, co-contracting, joint venture, and etc. How to join? You can join first the global network, that the first level of the network. If you carry an activity related to one of the NEOPALIA targeted market, and if you're not a Pays de Loire company, you need firstly to integrate one of the 5 clusters. And to become a member of one of those 5 clusters, you have to show that you have an activity that complements the global offer of at least one of the NEOPALIA 5 clusters. And of course, you have to pay a fee that depends on your company's size. And once you're a member, you are integrated to the NEOPALIA business offer. That is to say that your skills and your products are included in the global offers that NEOPALIA can present to big market players. Last year, NEOPALIA created simplified stock cooperation under French law, SAS, as we call it. It is an additional legal and financial tool available to members to respond to larger cooperative tenders. That is to say that NEOPALIA, through this new company cooperation, answer to the tenders for its member and give better warranties to big market players, both legal and financial. As for public fundings, so NEOPALIA is a business-oriented cluster, and therefore they have private. They must have private fundings. So public fundings through grants must represent less than 50% of NEOPALIA total annual budget. But to give you an idea, for the phase 7 from 2015 to 2018, 2.3 million euros were granted in public funding, and in 2019, 2020, 1.5 million. And as for since its creation, NEOPALIA has received 6 million in public funding, and which have generated more than 33 million of direct collaborative business for its members. So I would say it's money well spent, if I may say so. So in terms of impacts, the phase 7 from 2015 till 2018 gave us those numbers, a turnover of 22.7 million for 45 companies answering 26 tenders. We also implement various number of indicators: turnover, participation in events, international representation, tenders, conversion rate, membership, etc., etc. As for impact, what you have to keep in mind is that each business cluster evolves in a different economic context and develops its own business strategy. For instance, the marine cluster evolves in a very competitive market segment. That is why a niche market approach has been favored, like for the design and the manufacturing of specific ships, etc. And as on the other end, the MRE clusters, marine renewable energies clusters, evolves in a market currently in maturation phase in France, but with an important European competition. Therefore, the collaborative and local content, as we call it, approach has proven most efficient. However, the strength of the NEOPALIA network is also its cross-sectoral approach. For instance, now during the COVID crisis context, and I will develop on that later, there is a cross-fertilization that is implemented between the MRE cluster and the aerospace cluster. On another aspect, before 2020, we had two other clusters, an oil and gas cluster and an atom waste clusters, and they were dissolved into a bigger energy cluster in 2020 because the market was no longer the right one. Finally, as I say, SAS NEOPALIA solution is a tool that can benefit to all sectors, and it will carry the financial risk and present greater guarantee to potential clients. So they all pull together to better cover risks. As for example, of cross-cluster action, as I just told you before, NEOPALIA aerospace cluster and NEOPALIA MRE cluster are now into a program of cross-cluster cooperation. One of the examples was last November, when a webinar was organized on marine renewable energy as a cross-sector opportunity. Because there is many links that can be built in those two sectors concerning materials and back office and logistics, etc., etc. And those are two main industry in Pays de Loire, so it made sense to do this webinar. Sorry. So the objective of the event was to show the opportunity that MRE development could offer to aerospace and marine industries. And it was a first of a series of events designed to help the aeronautical sector in this unprecedented sector crisis. Two other examples that I can give. NEOPALIA tour. So the NEOPALIA tour is the cluster that is mainly represented in a part of the region is turning all around the region to meet local companies and local cluster to build a strong industrial roadmap for the region, a cross-sectoral industrial roadmap for the region in 2021. Finally, last example, the 24 ID MRE was a business event organized in 2018 with two other maritime clusters, Pôle-Mer Bretagne Atlantique and Atlampol. It aimed at also designing the roadmap for MRE in the coming years and challenge the new innovation and see what could be NEOPALIA and globally Pays de Loire offers in this MRE market. So lesson learned from this NEOPALIA network. So after 20 years of existence, more than 20 years actually, because it was built in 1999, the NEOPALIA network still proves a relevant tool. Indeed, there was a 6-month-long consultation organized to prepare Phase 8 that demonstrated that NEOPALIA is still an important actor and must evolve to adapt itself to new market challenges. And currently, NEOPALIA is in this new phase, and it will uncover a lot of changes necessary for the network to adapt to various market evolution. As I told you, the evolution of the energy sector and also of the industrial challenges that the region faces at the moment. As for forthcoming that we as a region sustain is that the association is quite known in each business cluster field, but however it's still mainly focused in Loire-Atlantique, which is one of our county, and the objective will be to be recognized in a broader way in the rest of the region, but also to be recognized by other sectors. Like the MRE sector is now getting known in the aerospace sectors, and we would like it to be generalized. If I'm not sure I'm being clear, okay. And finally, what is really what we discovered mainly through Clipper is that the NEOPALIA model is really appreciated internationally, and that also shows it because I was asked to talk about NEOPALIA today. So I think it's a clue of the interest of the practice. So that's it for me. Thank you very much for listening. Here you have my contact information and all the information for the Clipper project.
Thank you, Agathe, so much for your presentation. And I will see if we have received any questions specifically to you.
We have.
Yes, Mart?
Yep, we do have a question.
Yes, and please
and
go
let
ahead.
me also introduce myself to the audience. So I'm also one of the Interreg Europe policy learning platform's thematic experts on SME competitiveness, and I'm here to moderate the chat and the questions that you send in. So please do ask them. Although I also have some background in clusters projects with the Estonian ICT cluster, I would much rather give voice to you and your inquiries. And we have to Agathe, we have one clarifying question, and it was just to specify the link between the NEOPALIA cluster and with the Clipper project. And maybe I can already and add to this as well already then that how has this good practice been benefited or used inside the project as well, if it has?
Okay, so NEOPALIA is a cluster financed by Pays de Loire region. And Pays de Loire region is the lead partner of the Clipper project. So that is one of the good practices that we presented to our partners to inspire from in terms of cluster cooperation and innovation, collaborative innovation, collaborative performances. So we included, we presented the NEOPALIA functioning to our partners, and they were really interested. So we discuss how it works, and it, for example, it inspired our Scottish colleagues that are now building a maritime cluster, and they were really eager to understand a bit more how we work. So that's one example of how we integrated NEOPALIA into our Clipper discussions.
Thank you for this answer.
I think, Mark, we actually need to move ahead. If there are more questions, we will use them during panel or send at the end on bilateral basis, because we are already behind the schedule. So thank you once again, Agathe, for your presentation. And we will come back to you then in panel. So with that, I would like now to invite our next speaker, Ms. Aiga Irmeja from Latvia, manager of Latvian ICT Cluster, to share your experience in this area. Please, Aiga, the floor is yours. And please try to limit your presentation to 10 minutes. Good.
So probably the question again, can you see my screen? Can you see my slides?
Yes, we can see your slides and yourself as well, so go ahead, everything fine.
Yes, yes, thank you very much for inviting me and for the opportunity to share our experience. And our experience this time which I will share is connected to a specific project. But first, a little bit about myself. I am a cluster manager already for some 6 years, but my background is from industry side. And Latvian IT Cluster, it's a silver-labeled cluster in the market for quite a long time, and we've been involved in lots of initiatives, but basically we are focused on two major areas. The one is cross-industry collaboration in the field of digitalization, and that's why we are also Digital Innovation Hub, and this will be experience that we'll share later in slides. And also, of course, we are supporting competitiveness of our industry through internationalization activities. However, the project I'm sharing today, it's Interreg Europe Skills Plus project, which is more for policy makers. It involved participants from around 11 countries, and participants were mainly public authorities, national and regional. From Latvian side, this was also a Ministry of Regional Development, and this is a ministry who deals with digital issues in the national level. But we as a cluster, we were stakeholders in this project and were involved in activities from the very beginning. So basically, the main objective of the project was a policy learning, and later on adoption of policy recommendation. So as you can see from the timeline, this was quite a long project. It's quite a long journey, and lots of things were changing, especially lots of things are changing in digital topics. So it was quite a good experience also for us. So when we started in 2016 to be a part of this project, we as a cluster, we were contributing to those digital skills topics with a IT solutions demo center. That was we had a showroom where we are showing our solutions that were created in Latvia and showing this and kind of promoting Latvian IT industry and the achievements of Latvian IT industry. Later on, also going along with this project and learning, so we understood that just showing IT solution is absolutely not enough, and we have to go further, and we have to be involved more on hands-on with the companies. So that was the beginning of our journey to become Digital Innovation Hub, since we understood that we as IT industry, as representatives of tech community, we also hold our responsibility to show other industries or SMEs how digital solutions can help them remain competitive, how solve also workforce issues, and of course, above all, show inevitability of technology and the progress. So, and when we looked at our potential customers or potential audience, I love to show this picture of some survey or research. It's a little bit old, maybe a couple of years old, but still it shows the way of thinking of companies. So we see that 90 and 93% of respondents, they say that they agree or strongly agree that digital technologies are changing the game, and it's a very important aspect of their business. However, only 46% say that they are prepared for digital disruption. So, and this clearly shows where we have to go and what issues we have to address. If we go further on about cross-industry and cross-cluster collaboration, the main topic that we realized we must address is that how to balance for SMEs this two objectives of their business. The first is they must continue to develop their core product or services, and this is basically the role of industry clusters. It's a food or wood or transport or gas or whatever. So they know what to do and they know how to deal with those issues. However, ours as technology community, we must help to look for new business models and opportunities with the help of technologies and new solutions. And this is our learning, that we understood that three main components are necessary for digital transformation. And if some of them is missing, then it really is quite a failure. So the first one is environmental aspects, and it includes, but is not limited to community, communication, municipality, also policy making activities. The second is resources. This is what we as technology cluster can offer. It's all the information, all the knowledge, all the skills, and all the access to it. And of course, it's also financing that also includes. And the third, which is very important, which is usually missing, is this facilitation that encourages companies to change their behavior towards digital transformation. And this is basically the place where cluster collaboration steps in. So my absolutely deep belief is that clusters are champions of networking and community management, at least it should be so. And clusters are the ones that can help companies to become more digital within their industries. Clusters are usually advocating innovation and growth, and this is absolutely should include this technology aspect. And usually clusters from traditional industries lack the knowledge, and again, here is a place for cluster collaboration. And of course, there is a good base for cluster collaboration since there are international and local networks. And of course, there are opportunities also for clusters to access more financing. So a couple of examples. One example is a customer project we had with agri-food clusters. So we built a network agri-food clusters and technology clusters as Latvian IT Cluster. And we made it was not a big project, but still it was very nice, about cross-industry hackathons. So I would dare to say that we were one of the first clusters who organized cross-industry and cross-cluster corporate hackathons for corporate customers, bringing together technology SMEs and SMEs from food production companies. So we managed to build sustainable partnerships both among clusters and between SMEs through very, very practical events. Those events were local, on national level hackathon, and also international one. A couple of learnings from those activities. Soft activities like learnings and seminars and webinars and sending newsletters information are not always enough. So project and activities should show a visible business value, and sometimes it should be attached to some additional funding, not only to find the right solution for company, but also to grant financing to implement it, which in many cases lacks. So industry SMEs, in our example, those were like food production companies, are still kind of reluctant to invite technology in their business, and building trust takes time. If the project is 1 or 1.5 years long, so it is a bit challenging. And of course, it is very, very necessary to follow up and continue this project. And if the project is short, then this continuity should be provided already outside the project. That's we should always keep in mind. So then later on, moving on with the hackathons, we realized, of course, hackathons are very good. It's very nice, but still we can't live our lives only with hackathons. It's quite a troublesome and very time-consuming and effort-consuming. So there should be some more practical events in a form of business matchmaking, so where we put together many technology companies with many so-called traditional industry companies. So benefits are quite straightforward. In short time, we get solution. There are real business opportunities, and we can provide lots of good learnings, and we can possibly cover variety of topics, which is quite limited in opposite to hackathons. However, there are still challenges we must address when we do those business matchmaking kind of events. We should keep some focus on topics. And still, and again, it's some reluctancy from traditional industry SMEs. And of course, we should overcome lots of prejudice against technology if it is really needed in this particular time. And then we came to another format when we realized, okay, if we can't address many SMEs against, again, many tech providers, we can do individual services or individual matchmaking. And we call this series of event of digital expert visits, or in some slang language, we call it coach experts. And this is a very, very interesting format, and it became quite popular. So in short, it means that experts from various technology companies visits industrial company or SME and gives immediate responses and immediate advices. So no strings attached, nobody is taking like I would say real responsibility, but still there are lots of learnings for both sides. So so-called mentored SMEs or SME from traditional company has lots of benefits. In short time, they get multiple expert opinions. It's a really short time, it's 2-3 hour time. So however, they must be open and they must be open-minded. And of course, this company should be interesting one. It should be visible in the market. It must be large enough in order experts find it worth visiting and giving their time. So on the other side, technology experts also get knowledge. In short time, they get valuable market insight, but of course, they must contribute and give honest opinions. So I think I managed to do it in time, Rene, I hope.
Yes.
So if there are any more questions, I'm always open to discuss. Here are my contacts, so feel free to contact me.
And Mart, indeed, if there are any questions, I think we can take one and then again put the rest to the panel.
Yes, there is one question, but it sort of consists of 2 parts. And this comes from Alfred. So he asks that how do you stimulate cluster collaboration? And as you already discussed this a bit, then he later asked that how do you really manage to bridge the reluctancy and the lack of trust with companies to join this collaboration format?
So for cluster collaboration part, I can say that we building trust takes time, and building collaboration also among and between clusters, it also takes time, but we have developed quite a good network, and gradually we are building and expanding this collaboration network also for our clusters, and we are always very happy that we can expand it even more. But of course it takes time, and each event we are organizing together builds more and more trust. About overcoming reluctancy, I could speak about this for hours, but we don't have, I guess, enough time today. Yes, but there is this facilitation aspect which I mentioned before, facilitation and building long-term relationship. So you have to build trust very gradually. Yes, it's all about trust.
We trust you, Aiga. So thank you so much, Aiga. We will rejoin. You will rejoin at the panel, and let's move then to our next speaker, who is Mr. Marek Przeor from European Commission, DG Grow. He will present the current and future plans of European Commission in terms of cluster cooperation support. So Marek, the floor is yours. We can already see your slides, and if you, now it's full screen. Go ahead, please. You have 10 minutes presentation.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to give you an overview of the cluster policy which was developed in DG Grow. My name is Marek Przeor. I worked before for almost 11 years in the DG Regio, working on European Regional Development Fund and developing smart growth policy. And now I'm in DG Grow developing cluster policy. And this is very much interlinked, as you know, with smart growth. Just to give you, I want to start with a slide, because many times I noticed that people are associating clusters just with cluster organization, which is not true. Cluster organization is a formal organization, formal setup, but it's not cluster. Clusters is the groupings of companies. They can be formalized, but it doesn't have to be. That's why I want to stress that the clusters is an economic phenomenon which exists in either formalized or non-formalized form, and definitely this goes into one of the main features, as you saw, is the collaboration, but it builds as well intelligence and this tacit knowledge among players, and then as well that provides the services which actually, if they are institutionalized, can be done by cluster organizations. So in our DG Grow European Commission cluster policy, there is this cluster hub, which is called European Cluster Collaboration Platform, not always known in the European Regional Development Fund, particularly in mainstream programs. I'm not saying about Interreg, but about mainstream programs. This is, however, the hub where it is grouping the cluster organizations and facilitates the collaboration in the EU of the cluster community. We are going to refresh, renovate it, and the industry days will probably launch the new, more user-friendly version of this, including as well the European Resource Efficiency Knowledge Center, highlighting the importance of green transition. This is very important to have this hub and having this community animation facilitation at EU level, because exactly of what happened, for example, during the COVID. It was this community which was able to mobilize very quickly in a moment when we had really crisis. The power of this network, the flexibility of organization, technological capacity, and market intelligence helped during the COVID crisis, particularly when we had lackage of lack of masks or personal protection equipment. It showed the most important role of clusters in our EU economic structure. It can play a very important role in mitigating or avoiding the disruptions in supply chains. So coming back, I want to give you the overview of what was done in DG Grow in the period 2014-20, so that you have an overview, because this is the basis on which we are designing the future actions. And let me go to this: the European Strategic Cluster Partnerships for Smart Specialization. You saw a very good example of DG clusters. I'm giving these examples always. It wasn't big budget, but by the way of facilitating, it created new opportunities and business cases. We had 9 partnerships of this kind, and here it was cluster driven. Let me refer as well to the thematic smart specialization platform on industrial modernization, which is as well at S3 platform in the European Commission GRC Joint Research Center portal. These are as well 30 partnerships which are organized and ignited by regional communities in order to bring together the different regions working on similar topics. I think this both complement each other, and our effort in the future financial perspective will be to bring this together so that the clusters play more important role in this interregional partnerships, because they are the real economic business players. Another one example is Clusters Go International. This is something that brought many partnerships in order to promote our businesses, to create cooperation agreements, export consortia, to have the scale and scope that we can go abroad. The next one initiative was the European Strategic Cluster Partnership for Excellence. This is concentrating on performance of the clusters and particularly its management. And one of integral part of this is this cluster exchange, which unfortunately due to COVID is now virtual, but sharing the experiences between cluster managers, between the people working for clusters is of utmost importance. So all of this initiative were financed from the COSME program. Very important element of cluster collaboration projects were as well Horizon 2020, particularly the one which the InnoSup one, which I would like to stress, because on this of the experience of this program, we are building as well the new joint cluster initiative under single market program. This is I would particularly highlight the you can go to YouTube and Google IoT. I will not launch it now, but this is exactly about what we are aiming at, about cross-cluster, cross-sectoral collaboration, which implements innovative projects into the market, particularly important for industrial, for green and digital transition. Internet of Things for Industry became the partnership of the year, and one of the main reasons for this is communication they made, but as well that they really were able to bring on the market in many SMEs through cascade funding the projects. So let me very quickly. I want to see you to see. Can you see this? Hello?
Yes, we can.
Yes,
I can tell you that we can see it.
because this is policy learning platform, and I think we had the European Cluster conference. Some of you maybe saw it, but I want to show it because it synthesizes in very communicative way what we are aiming at in cluster policy, building on the community which gathered together at the European Cluster conference.
Marek, we can try to show it. But at the same time, I'm not sure it will fully work because often with YouTube videos, it's a little bit difficult.
But can you see it now?
It seems to work.
We can try it, and I will also send it in the chat for those who can't really follow.
Yeah, okay. But if I launch it, can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah, try.
Okay, so I launch it, no problem.
3, 2, 1, top. Good morning from Brussels and welcome to the European Cluster Conference 2020.
This event illustrates how important collaboration and clusters are for our economy now, I must say, more than ever.
This conference comes at a very timely moment, a moment where member states are preparing their national recovery plans.
How should businesses adapt so that the recovery leads to green and digital transition and improves business resilience?
We have to promote innovation and growth in order to strengthen companies after the crisis and thus bring our economy in Europe forward again.
So we're talking not about the new normal, we're talking about total new different.
Our recommendation is connect, link and collaborate through clusters. It will be key for the successful adaptation to our current and future challenges.
The first thing we need, of course, to do is to ensure that there is finally an agreement and an implementation on this next generation EU recovery plan.
So what might be a V recovery for some might be an L recovery for others.
I would like to call on clusters, but also on the development of the ecosystems and the alliances to make sure that we really cooperate very well with the SME organizations on the ground.
Well, I'm very pleased to present this quiz. What is the main quality of a cluster manager?
We need to make our economy more resilient. Clusters could play a key role as a strategic partner for businesses and public authorities in supply chain management, in building of technology alliances, and in upskilling and reskilling our workforce. This will contribute to strengthening our strategic autonomy. Of course, this is not about isolating ourselves, but about having choices, alternative, competition. We need to avoid unwanted dependencies, both economically and geopolitically.
EU funding can be used through clusters, as clusters can channel to final recipients, in particular SMEs. EU funding can be used with clusters to provide specialized services to any economic actor in need. EU funding can be used by clusters to mix private and public, align local, regional, national, reach out to financial providers. For clusters, EU funding can be used to build a capacity to facilitate collaboration, capitalize technological and market intelligence, and offer services.
In Romania, we have 76 clusters.
Clusters help us to make full sense of the benefits of the single market. And by networking, I can create added benefits. The green transition, first of all, needs agents of change. We can also consider clusters as partners for dialogue.
It makes a lot of sense that clusters are integrated or linked into the work of the digital innovation hubs.
Cluster could also be used for anticipating future disruption and future problems we can have in a so turbulent business environment.
I'm delighted to announce that the Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs and Energy's Go Cluster program will be the 14th program to join the alliance. Integrating cluster policy into these industrial ecosystems will promote resilience and strategic independence.
All clusters are created for a reason. It responds to a need, and that of course also defines what you're looking for.
The winner of the European Cluster Partnership of the year 2020, Marielle Campanella.
Thank you very much, Ulla.
The Cluster Manager of the Year award goes to Uwe Pfeil. We want to give a special award to Antonio Novo.
Thank you very much, Ulla.
We need to become a partner for policymakers to set the agenda and make sure that we spend the new resources that are now available in ways that truly enhance our competitiveness.
Identification of the 14 ecosystems is a very important part of the European industrial strategy. And we are really curious how cluster managers will use these ecosystems to develop ideas and perspectives to overcome the current economic challenges.
To hold such a big conference digitally is a great challenge.
Use this opportunity for making clusters stronger to make Europe greener, more digital and resilient.
Okay, I think I can now switch to presentation. So I wanted you to see this because it was in a nutshell the cluster policy which we will be aiming at in the new financial perspective. So you saw there's a clear recognition and there's a big dynamism and really enthusiasm in the clusters. It's something which puts forward the EU economy. And this is the key for green and digital transition. And now after COVID, it's even more important for economic resilience, as I mentioned for the supply. So I will refer, we have European, we have the expert group in the Commission with representative of the member states and then representative of the cluster management. And we came up with the recommendations. The recommendations will be published this month. But just to tell you, it goes in 3 blocks. Clusters should lead the green transition, should accelerate the uptake of digital solutions, and build the economic resilience of the EU. And now this year we will work on operationalization of this together with the cluster community. What I'm showing now is exactly the joint cluster initiative Euroclusters. This is the program that we will launch this year once we have all implementing acts ready and after adoption of the multi-annual financial framework. We are now working on the details. But just to give you, so modalities are not known yet, it's been developed. But just to, what it will be exactly what I just showed you, building on our experience in the previous period. The only problem is that single market program, the budget was not increased, so we will have a very modest budget in comparison, for example, to European Regional Development Fund. When I used to work on billions here, you work on millions, but all the more so this cross-cluster collaboration and in cross-sectoral needs to be top in order to give a blueprint examples for the others. But definitely we will be working on critical infrastructure, critical inputs, critical technologies, finding solutions across countries and across clusters to go for resilient, green and digital. Thank you very much for your attention. At the same time, I want to mention there is another, this component 5, the interregional innovation investments, which is as well now being precised with a budget of 500 million, which will be in the European Regional Development Fund. It's not anymore in Interreg, in European Territorial Cooperation as it was foreseen. It will be as well very much for cluster, cross-cluster collaboration. Thank you very much for your attention, and if you have any questions, I'm ready and happy.
Thank you so much, Marek, for a good overview of the past activities and also outlining the strategy for future. Mark, do we have any questions? And let's take one and then again bring the other ones to the panel discussion.
No, there are no immediate questions from the audience. So Rene,
okay,
I think it's up to you.
Let's switch to the panel discussion, because there is a question about clusters and the smart specialization strategies, which Marek was referring, and we have also Mark joining us, who is also expert in this area, so I can start with that. But please, Aiga and Agathe, please also join the panel discussion and switch on your cameras again. And again, all the participants, please do ask either specific questions to any of the panelists or cross-cutting questions which everybody can answer. So I was just referring to the smart specialization strategy and clusters, and we actually got the question in advance asking why didn't we bring it out strongly enough in our webinars, this connection. And I wanted to ask you, Mark, first, but perhaps you can just also say a few introductory words about your background in terms of regional innovation strategy, smart specialization strategies, and also address how the RIS3 and clusters are connected and whether they can, so to say, be mutually beneficial.
Okay, thank you, Rene. As you said in the introduction, I'm one of the Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform experts from the innovation and research team. Clusters, without saying it too pompous way, but have been an important part of my last 10 years of my professional life. With Marek and his colleagues at DG GROW, we set up the European Cluster Collaboration Platform in 2016, and I was sort of facilitating, coordinating that up until 2020. And the last 4 years I've been working in a very sort of hands-on fashion with the smart specialization partnerships that Marek mentioned, that he was facilitating when he was at DG GROW as part of the Reconfirm project, where we've had strong engagement of clusters in driving forward these industrial modernization partnerships that were trying to facilitate cooperation, not necessarily cross-sectoral, but in the thematic areas that were selected by the JRC. So we've got some particular good examples which are supported by Interreg Europe projects as well, in the water theme, in the sports theme, in the medtech. So we've got a good, let's say, area of synergies between clusters, the policy making, supported by Interreg Europe, and obviously the smart specialization strategies. So on that particular question you highlighted, Rene, clusters and S3M, I'm convinced that clusters are at the heart of the new, let's say, program period 21-27. The new head of unit down at JRC, Mika Landabazzo, many years ago, he quoted, well, he was quoted as saying, clusters are the DNA of good smart specialization strategies. somebody could remind him that on a regular basis, then all the cluster managers would be very happy across Europe. But I think he was making the point in particular with reference to the entrepreneurial discovery process. You know, how do we ensure that the strategies, whether they be smart or you know, thematic or whatever, that have a strong link to the SMEs, the business ecosystems, and they are aligned with opportunities for growth. And cluster ecosystems with the businesses, the research and innovation actors, the public sector, and also the users, whether it's citizens or other form of you know, consumers, can actually feed into the updating process of the smart specialization strategy. So I think we're seeing strong engagement at the regional level, and I think clusters who aren't involved should certainly make sure they participate in the different processes that are aligned with the EDP. Just also highlight and echo something my colleague Elena said at the beginning. Part of the Interreg Europe policy learning platform is we produce and run these type of workshops, webinars, but we also have policy briefs. And last year we organized a workshop and produced a policy brief on smart specialization strategies. And we had colleagues from DG Regio, from Urada, from Interreg Europe projects that were using clusters as vehicles for helping to design their smart specialization strategy. So there's a lot of material online on the platform that Elena mentioned. So that's my first reaction to your question, Rene, and then I can come back a bit later.
Thank you so much, Mark. Anybody wants to add or react on this specific topic on connections between the smart specialization and cluster policies? If
yes,
not,
yes, I mean, of course, I think in these clusters is the DNA of smart specialization. If you are talking about that's why I'm on clusters. So it went from region to grow as well to even put more dynamics into this development. And the reason is why. When we develop the smart specialization, all this concept in the region, then one of the elements was this entrepreneurial discovery process. So you need to have entrepreneurs who have this tacit knowledge, which is not being able to be captured in any analytics or consultant studies, which then as we call omniscient planner from the public administration would read and then shape the policies. The essence of the smart specialization was to developing really relevant policy instruments which are financed from the ERDF in order to be relevant for economy. And clusters are the ones who have all these elements. So they have intelligence in order to be partner for the public authorities to talk about this. They have this tacit knowledge about what is happening both in the technology side, what are the developments, but not only what are the technology development, but as well what are the viable technology developments so that they can be applied. Yeah, because we can, and here we have the difference between excellent researcher who has fantastic ideas and solutions, but they cannot become economically viable. So clusters verify this technologies. They can do it, but as well they know the market. They know what sales channels they are. They know what kind of behavior the development of the clients is, and then combine this all together, which is very rarely, because either you are a researcher or you are SME, but you don't have this overview which clusters have, and they can as well. That's why in this policy development right now we want to stress very much collaboration between cluster managers with the regional authorities in order to shape the new operational programs, in order to shape national recovery plans, but in order actually to work all the time in this what we have in the ERDF as eligible criteria, the governance of smart specialization. Yeah? The collaboration approach. Clusters are essence of this because they have all these elements. And this is about the working on regional level, but as well on inter-regional level. And I think everyone who worked in regional policy knows very well that there is sometimes silo between European territorial cooperation actions and mainstream programs. People who are working, it depends on the country, of course, of administration, but very often people are blind and they are looking only at their operational program. They are not looking in the region, they are not looking outside. I think Interreg, both Europe in the future, but as well the new program needs to break this, needs to make visible for the program managers at the of operational programs, and that's why there is this interregional innovation investment new instrument, that they go outside the region, they see what the others are doing, they complement, and then they develop. And this is as well task for us at EU level, and the joint cluster initiatives will definitely serve for this purpose, but with the main view, to build resilience at EU economy. So this in a nutshell. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Marek. Now I would like to go back to our main topics, intercluster, intersector cooperation, and ask each of you just namely shortly one or two key success factors in your opinion and in your own experience, which makes this type of intercluster cooperation successful, either money or people or vision, or what in your experience is one or two key factors which actually help this cooperation to be successful. Perhaps we can start with Agathe and Aiga, whoever wants to share their own views on success factors.
I can start. I would say that for me it's mainly people. If people don't learn to work together, how many money you make, you put into it, it won't change a thing. It's mainly we're talking about cooperation, so people should be able to cooperate. Yeah, for me it's the key factors, the main factors. And another aspects would be, I think, communication, to be able to let people know the opportunity to collaborate. That's the basics, I would say.
You mentioned, Aiga, in your presentations that trust is the one which needs to be built, and without trust, nothing is happening. Can you add anything else as a key success factor to this type of cooperation? You are muted, unfortunately, Aiga. You need to switch on your microphone. You can say something, then we can test whether we hear you or not. No, we cannot hear you. Well, while you're trying to switch your microphone on, let me ask the same questions then from Mark and Marek as well. What is your experience in terms of making this type of cooperation work and achieve results?
I think, Mark, maybe you start because you let the reconfirm, and then I will.
Okay. Well, reconfirm, as has already been said, was supported by DG Grow and DG Regio in the sort of thematic platform support. And one of the challenges we found was to, get cooperation working in a functional manner. And clusters gave us that, let's say, support because they linked into the ecosystems. Some of them had other type of funding, such as the ESEP smart specialization that Marek highlighted. So they were able to organize matchmaking sessions between their ecosystems, finding collaboration. We had some facilitation projects, and I think that's very important, providing the carrot for cooperation, because we'll be honest with each other, it's not always easy to get SMEs to cooperate within the same region, let alone across borders. So the technical assistance facility, DG Regio and DG Grow both organized calls on thematic topics of interest. COVID, pandemic issues drove cooperation rapidly. The Green Deal call that's currently open. I know there's a lot of clusters involved in a particular area called territorial circular economy. So that picks up on one of the the key messages that Thierry Breton mentioned, the green and resilient ecosystems. So I think that's cooperation works, but you need facilitators. Clusters are one of the facilitators for that to take place.
Thank you. Aiga, you are back.
Yes, I'm back. So sorry, there were some from my side, answering the question about the key success factors for clusters to be main drivers for collaboration and also smart specialization, I would call it community management, which incorporates in this term both people, communication, how do you deal internally your topics, how are you dealing your industry problems with your members, with your community internally, and of course it also refers to external communication. How can you communicate your issues, your topics to external stakeholders, to your external partners, and also to other clusters from other industries and from other countries. So basically, this is your ability to manage your community.
Thank you, Aiga. And last but not least, Marek.
Let me compliment. We had at the time of last 3 years led the pilot on main or most advanced partnerships in the smart specialization, interregional collaboration. Maybe you know it. Then the main topics or issues, there was coordination. Yeah? So the issue of managing you said community, but as well, if you want to go even further, just beyond collaboration into the investment, then you need to have the concrete, tangible vehicle. It's not only memorandum of understanding, but someone who leads the projects. So coordination, this vehicle, someone who leads really and brings together the actors. And then the other element was business literacy. So financial, being able to bring together for having investments together. Maybe from DG clusters you would have experience how difficult it is to go together between different countries, different sectors into the business case you manage, but you can tell even more because you practice this in order to come up and try to find business case in order to be able to convince the others to join. And then, but you need to have the people who are able to do so. And then political support. I think political support is very important because it gives legitimacy or confidence for potential actors to join the investments. If people are operating in the smart specialization areas where the country or the region is putting the money in operational programs as priorities, this is much easier, of course. So these are three. You wanted three. The others I would mention, but let me just. The standardization, sometimes it becomes a problem between countries, regions, and then different regulatory barriers, be it in employment issues or labor issues. But these are also nitty-gritty, which depends very much as well on cross-sectoral. And if you, for example, you take the cross-sectoral, let an example: smart buildings. You have construction, you have electronics, you have advanced materials, you have energy, renewable energy. You have all together in order to be put so that you build the smart and sustainable house. This all can be done if all people work together, and this can happen at the grant. But if you want to make it at meta level, it's much difficult. So this is what we will be aiming at the joint cluster initiative. We call Euro clusters.
Thank you, Marek. I am now in a very unfortunate position as a moderator of this panel discussion, so I have to end this discussion before it even got actually started due to time limits and our promises to the audience. However, I want to thank you all the presenters and panelists for today's webinar, and also highlighting the key success factors from different angles: people, the trust, the community building, the leadership, which are all needed to make it happen. For all the people who send individual questions or comments, I'm promising that we will forward them individually to the speakers they were dedicated, and hopefully speakers will be able to also then give direct answers, as well as we will answer to those more general questions which are more related to Interreg Europe policy learning platform. So thank you for all the questions, for participation. And before we close the webinar, I would like now to invite my colleague Elena Ferrario back and share some closing words, as well as share with us the short video. So thank you from my side as well, and let's hope we will meet again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rene. Thank you to all the speakers of this session. Really just one word to mention that beyond cluster policies, of course, our experts in the policy learning platform deal with many different topics. In particular, Rene and his team, they will soon produce two additional webinars, one on entrepreneurship education and the second one on SMEs and the circular economy. So everything that is related to SME entrepreneurship and competitiveness is in the hands of our experts. And they also produce policy briefs, as Mark just mentioned. In particular, one on social enterprises was just published on our website. So I really warmly invite you to check out on our website all the different activities and publications that the policy learning platform produce, because there may be interesting things for you to look at. Now, with the help of Lotte, I will say goodbye to you with a little video that shows one specific service of the policy learning platform that is really the entry door to access our expert support. And with this, I wish you a good end of the day, and stay tuned for new activities of the policy learning platform. Goodbye.
Hello, I'm Raluca. I work for the Policy Learning Platform, and I would like to talk to you today about one of our services, the Policy Help Desk. If you work for a public institution and are involved in the development of regional policies, you might be facing a particular moment, because you have to look into the future and build the next generation of operational programs. Our Policy Help Desk is easy to use. It can bring you concrete solutions to your questions related to research and innovation, SMEs competitiveness, low carbon economy, environment and resource efficiency. And it basically functions as if you were talking with a colleague, with a virtual colleague to whom you go to for help. But let's see how it works more concretely. All you have to do is to visit our website and write to us about your particular challenge. There is a designated form for that. Once we receive your request, we work with our network of experts located all over Europe. Depending on the subject of your request, we will send it to one of our experts. They will look into it, analyze it carefully, and then they will come back to you with an email. In this email, you will have personalized guidance from all over Europe in the form of recommended readings and policy briefs, videos and webinars, good practices, contacts of people that you might want to talk to. So, if you don't know where to start when thinking about the future and particular policy challenges that you are facing, don't hesitate to test our Policy Help Desk. We are here to help you.